Have you ever tried to move your garments from CLO3D to Unreal Engine and felt absolutely overwhelmed by setting up the scene, all the plugins and endless settings? You are not alone. I still got stuck there by starting every project from scratch, and therefore I want to show you today my workflow and how I'm setting up a template which I use now for every project as starting point. This tutorial is inspired by the photographer Jack Bridgeland, which I really admire for his bold, retro-looking style, even developing more characters than just like doing a photo shoot. I studied several breakdowns of his work by professional photographers to understand his basic setup, but I'm not a photographer, so bear with me if I'm not using the perfect terminology. Hi, my name is Anna, also known as Ashno. I moved from traditional fashion to digital 8 years ago. Back then I worked as a fashion designer for Hugo Boss before transitioning to The Fabricant, the first digital-only fashion house in the world. Please also have a look in the description. There's a link to my store. This video is not sponsored, so if you want to take the chance to support me or interested in additional learning material, you find some options there. A year ago, I made a very similar tutorial on the same setup, but a lot of things changed since then. And today I mainly use CLO3D with the LiveSync plugin to send garments from CLO to Unreal Engine in just a few minutes. And this video is guiding you through the full process. Install Unreal Engine, setting up your plugins, building a studio scene with lighting, and render from sequencer. Also, I made timestamps to make it easier for you to jump to the topics which are relevant for you. If you're new here, please consider liking and subscribing. Every subscriber genuinely supports my work. So enough with the intro, let's start. In today's tutorial, I really want to start from scratch, so I also want to show you how to download Unreal Engine and install all the plugins. Therefore, I'm starting on the Unreal page by itself, which you find by just Googling Unreal Engine download, and you get to this page where I think you need to sign in anyways later on to get access to Metahumans, but for the download probably not. So just hit the download button and install Unreal to your PC. What you will get is like this Epic Games Launcher button, which I'm opening, and you get this user interface where you have like several options here on top. I go to Library, and with the plus button you can install also earlier Unreal versions, as you see here, and I'm just like remove this slot. I will today work with Unreal 5.7. This is the latest version for now, and there are the most updated things also for the CLO LiveSync. So far, the Substance plugin is not available for this version, but I think still CLO can work for this, so this bit of like try and error. I just tested the latest setup for 5.6, so let's see. Here in the engine version, you also find like some additional settings which you need to adjust. First of all, we need to install the plugins, and if not, you find all plugins which you need like in the Fab store. So I'm selecting this here, and now I can just search for CLO, and here is CLO Marvelous Designer LiveSync, and select install plugin, and it will be installed to my library. So same with Substance Painter, install this plugin. I'm actually not sure for Metahuman. Also for Metahuman, you need a plugin to install. Now I go back to my library by selecting Unreal Engine here on the side and scrolling down where I have my Fab Library. And also here I can just search for CLO, and then I have the install to engine. And if you just have like 5.7, it's automatically installing to your current version. And you type in the same for Substance and Metahuman. Which plugins I have installed I see here. So I also need the Quixel bridge as well as the Fab plugin here. I can close this window. And there's also another setting which is necessary to do. Go to Launch, open with the arrow this drop-down menu, and go to Options. Make sure that Metahuman Creator Core Data is also installed, and just hit Apply. So if all of this stuff is done, we can launch now, and then this window is opening. Here the option of like new project or my projects. my project, this window here, and I will start a new project now. So I'm selecting this one, new project, and you get to this window. I'm normally using film video as base and then also using this blank project. I give a name with a very professional ending of like fashion editorial new, too long, already exists. Oh, fashion edit 00. And also you need to set the project location, make sure that you have enough space on your PC. And then I hit the create button. This can take some minutes. Okay, Unreal opened and I'm actually having this, which I see. I just closed the movie render queue. I'm not sure why it's opening. Maybe no, the scene is completely new. Yeah, well. Quickly, I want to go over the user interface as well as the navigation. So for the navigation, I have my right mouse click dragged, which allows me to like just view around. Then I have like my keys like W to move forward, left, right, and back. And then I also have Q and E to move up and down. So in the right window, you actually see my keys, which I'm pressing. I can select one of these items here. And if I'm pressing F, it's snapping to the view. And if I'm pressing the spacebar, I'm cycling between the options of like moving, scaling, and rotating, which is quite handy. I can press G to hide the icons for my items. And there's also the option of control spacebar to open the content browser if this is not automatically open for you. And then there's an option to like dock in layout, so it's always like here below. For the UI, it's very important to know that we need to open the edit tab to get to the project settings and plugins, which I will cover immediately after. There's this toggle menu where we have like the different modis. So in our case, the LiveSync plugin will be also available here. Then we have the quick add button where I can like type in the search field in, for example, light or camera, and this we will also add later with this little button here. Same as for the spacebar, we can also do the select, the move and scale and rotate options here in the left tab bar. Then something really important for later is like switching between the world space coordinate or the local space. So if I select, for example, this here and I'm switching in between, you see it changed the direction for the coordinate, and this is like quite handy for some parts, especially for like a target light setup. There are more options, especially like here, this one. You see they're all highlighted in blue, and this means that when I move things around, they snap to like a value of 10. Mostly I don't need it, so I'm like just deselect all of this and I have then more freedom to kind of like move everything around. Same as if I like select this little magnet, it will snap to like certain points and I have several options. I leave this unselected. Then very important is here this little drop down for perspective. Later on, if we add the camera, you can change here to the camera and also change from default viewport to cinematic viewport, which allows us to get this like little frames, which I use later for my camera to position my object to the center. I disable this for now, and when I go back to default viewport, it's also not here. Next to it, we have the camera speed, which means a high value, I'm moving super fast, and a low value means I'm moving quite slow. It makes sense to switch between like speed and slow mode, and it's also accessible by like dragging the right mouse and using the scroll bar in the center to change the camera speed. Then there are several options like for lit, unlit, and so on. I'm normally just using lit, but if you kind of finding weird what you see in your window, it's probably because this one is set to another view mode. Then this one I will not explain, but here next to it is also something very important. you can change like the scalability for your viewport, which is normally set to epic. This is kind of like the second highest quality to preview your scene. If your scene is like overloaded with items and you just want to kind of like move quickly around and making a setup, it sometimes can make sense to switch to medium. But then you're also not seeing actually the output which you will receive later in the rendering. So by just hitting this button, we're switching back to epic. And to get even a higher level, it's possible to go to cinematic. Then there's also kind of like a layout and viewports option, which I will explain later when we come to the camera. But just that you know, this is quite helpful to kind of like change and split your screen, especially if you just have one screen. Then on the right side, we have the outliner. This is kind of like the content which belongs to your level. So I actually have in my level a directional light, I have like height, fog and atmosphere. This is already added by default and we will delete it later. If I select one of these items here, I also come to the details, which means the properties. So I can just like scroll here down and change the settings for each item if I want. I also see like where they are in the navigation system or in the 3D window. Then also very important is the content browser, which we just like enabled with like asset control spacebar. And in the content browser is mainly everything which is in your project. So as more as we add to the project, it will show up here. And by drag and drop something from like your content browser to the outliner, you add it to your level. We actually are in our main level. You, for example, could also create several levels, which kind of like allows you to switch between setups. So for example, later on, if we made the template and you know already, okay, I want to use this template like several times, you can just like copy the main level with the right mouse click, duplicate and rename it to like fashion editorial 00 and then having like your template ready and you can adjust it and even not ruin it because you just keep this like main level untouched. So the content browser is a library for your assets. We start with the project settings and this is just something you need to do like one time. I go to Edit, Project Settings, and I type in Lumen in the search bar. I enable high quality translucency reflection. And also here I change to hid lighting for reflections. I also type in ray and then enable ray traced shadows and texture LOD. It asked me to restart, but we also need to install the plugins to this project, so I restart after. I can close this window now, go back to Edit and open plugins. And here I'm now typing in CLO and I find this CLO Marvelous Designer LiveSync. Then Substance we don't have. I really hope it's working without, but I think it's just like important for the import when you use Substance materials like SBSR files in your CLO project. And what's also very important for our Metahuman character to enable this Metahuman creator beta, just say yes. And I'm also enabling, let me check, Metahuman Animate and Core Tag. LiveLink we don't need. It's for a different project setup. And I also don't make the experimental things because last time, let's try it like this for now. I save selected, I restart and save selected, and then it automatically should restart. And this time it should also not take as long as for the first time. So it restarted and it's also opening my plugin window. We can close this now. And I want to start with importing my item for the backdrop. So I have FBX file which I'm using, and I just take my FBX and drag and drop it to the content browser. And if you changed any settings, I'm normally like use pipeline defaults, so we are all on the same setup. And I don't want materials to be created, but import materials I deselect. Let's see what's happening. Import textures. Nope, because my backdrop actually has not a material added to it. So just like adding this one here. I also want to create a folder that it's not as messy here in my library. So I'm making a right mouse click in the content browser and select here a new folder, and I call it assets. And I can just like drag and drop it here. It asks me move here, and I'm doing this. And also another thing which I need is material for my backdrop. And therefore I go to this little like Fab button, which is like very convenient actually. I'm opening Fab and have access to all the content in the store, and I use it quite frequently. So I want to have now a paper material, and I can also search here. Let's see, more filters. Price only show free, and then for compatibility, no. Style, I can also dock this if I want to the content browser, and then I have even more options here. I just want to have formats, no. Let's see, there's a lot of paper, and I just searching for a material. I can also, by like dragging the left mouse click, make this content browser a bit like bigger. And what I have is all the free assets from Quixel. If you have also access to them, they changed the system since this year. They are not longer for free. But so I select materials here on the side, and I think I use this smooth concrete. I can just select it, and then I want this in like high quality and hit add to project. Now it's automatically downloading and adding it. If you have a paper material also from Substance, you could use this as well when the plugin is available. And I think the Substance plugin should be available this week. It normally takes like 2 or 3 weeks for all the software to catch up with the Unreal Engine update. So yeah, if I go now here to my content browser back, it's already like opening this path which is guiding me to my material, and I just have the material here. I should have opened backdrop first. So if I go back to content and then assets, I can double click this one and the window is opening. And if I go now back to my Fab Megascan surfaces, my god, I can open my backdrop again. And now you see on the right side there's like the material slot which is open, and I drag and drop it here. Now I always have like this textured surface, which makes it nice. I can save it, and I also have the option to save some settings of my concrete. So if I see that the structure is probably too big or too small, I can go to global, and then for the tiling I could also set this up to 2, and then it's like, I think, way smaller. Just be aware of the repeat, and let's see if we do it very small. It's maybe not too bad because I don't want to have too much structure, so I'm just setting this one to 10, but just that you know, you can like change this here. I save. Okay, future me is here. At this point of the tutorial, I have added a Metahuman, which was not a good idea. I later on tried to do a new tool and it kind of crashed. It crashed my full scene and I could even not use it any longer. Therefore, I switched some parts of the tutorial and show the Metahuman part later. And also for the template, it makes more sense. So we continue now with the lighting, but I added my disrupted Metahuman to the lighting scene and I also corrected it. So not that you wonder why there is a Metahuman. I will show this part later. What makes probably sense is to add just a shape or another FBX to the center of your scene, that you can arrange the lighting in a good way. I just used the shapes and then like a cylinder or a pyramid, something like this. Yeah, and then just go ahead. Now I want to start to building the scene, and first thing I'm doing is like selecting everything here in the outliner and just delete it with the delete button. And now our level is actually empty. I bring my Metahuman in by drag and drop her, just like in the empty space, and then set her to 0 by selecting her in the outliner, opening automatically the details, and then I can like just click this little arrow to locate her to the center of the level. And navigating around to the front. Then I go here in the content drawer to my folder where I have my assets and drag and drop my backdrop also to the scene. And I do the same, I just like put it to 0. So everything is now centered in the scene. Now I'm starting to set up the light, and I want to set up a target light, which means that the light is always directing to our object. And therefore I start by adding an actor to my scene. And I do it by like just using here this drag down menu and drop down menu, and typing in actor. And if you were a past Blender user, you're probably familiar to this. An actor is similar as an empty. It's just like, to kind of like attach the light to it. So I'm putting it on 0, and the next I'm adding also a rectangle. So it's a rectangle light, just selecting it like this and also put it on 0. And what I want to do is attach this light to my actor. So I'm drag and drop it to the actor. So this means now if I'm selecting my actor and moving it, the light is also moving. And now if I select my rectangle light and I just move it out of the center, it's still directing to my actor. I can start selecting my actor and going to the rotation and rotating here around. And therefore it's also important, if you're in your rectangle and you want to move your rectangle more far away from the actor, you need to select this local space coordinate here on top, and then wherever you actually rotating, you can move it away and closer. So we're starting with a fill light, and as said, to make it a bit easier to understand, I would even call this one fill underscore light. And then by selecting it, I copy now the name and select this one, fill light settings. And you can change the name by just like clicking on it, or you press F2. This also helps to change names. So if I select now my fill light settings, I have a lot of options here in the details panel to change. So for example, there's intensity. Oh wait, I wanna add the location -300. I figured out this is a good value to have like a distance to the object. And then here it starts with the intensity, and I'm setting this one for now to 7.5. I can also change like the light color, but I keep it on like the default white. Something I really like is the attention radius, because this also kind of like limits the length of the light, which can be very helpful later to have softer shadows, especially when using a spotlight. So also this one I set to a value of 600. So it's like mainly lighting out the character, but not lighting out too much the background. Then I'm changing the source width to 1 meter and the source height to 2 meters. There are also more options to change, like barn door angle, but I keep it as a default. And then I also changed the temperature to a value of 8500 to make a cool light. Next to my fill light, I also want key light. Therefore, I'm selecting this one, copy C, copy D to duplicate, and instead of like call it fill light 2, I call it key, and same here, key. To 2. So we mainly have like the same light, but I want to change it to hit from the different direction. So I'm moving it here. And then I just change a few settings by like selecting the key light settings. I make it probably a bit less intensity for now, and change the attention radius to 400. And the source width and height I change back to the default. Yeah, mainly that's it. And the light needs to be adjusted for every project. So I want to set up a 3-point light, and therefore I want to add also a rim light, which is setting highlights here on the silhouette of the character. And therefore I'm adding another actor first. I put it to 0, and then I'm also adding a spotlight in this case. Also put it to 0. I'm moving it up already, and then attach it here to this actor 2, and I rename it to rim light, and this I call rim light settings. And to organize this a bit better, because later if I add more stuff to the scene, I want the light to be together in like one place. I'm selecting here actually my fill light and press this little folder icon, and I call this light. And now I can select also my key light and put it into this folder, and I'm also putting all other lights here inside. So kind of like helps me to organize this and finding all the light sources I have later in my scene. I can also easily switch then this full folder off, but I also can like switch off like single lights to define the strengths and switch them on and off. So coming back to the rim light, I go to the settings and I do the same here. Just like quickly I can adjust like the intensity. I change the attention radius, and for this light I think it's most important to just like kissing like the back of the avatar with the garment, instead of like having it like fully spot on and like having this hard shadows. I can really like control this very, very well. I have also here like the inner cone, which I'm not using, but outer cone can reduce like to something very precise. And then there are even more settings I'm not using now. And then also for temperature, because in this case we didn't copy this from the other ones, I'm like making it to a cool light. And now if I scroll a bit more to my object, I can select now here the rim light, and again see like, yeah, here I want to set this more to the back. And probably it would be also smart to change like the local space to world back, selecting my rim light, not the rim light settings, and moving this up and bit to the back. So mainly I want to have like this section here hit by the light. So I'm like moving this around, and then I'm like first setting this one to a really high value, and also changing the attention radius to something longer, going back here, and then like can move around until I have like the perfect setting. So as said, it just should give like the silhouette highlight to the body and not more. And whenever I messes up by probably taking this one and like moving my light around and then probably rotated it also, I can always like switch back by zero out like my light and zero out my actor, and starting again like by selecting the light source and then the actor and like moving it around. The last thing to get like this vivid backdrop color, and also you see actually it's quite dark in the background, I'm adding a background light, and therefore I'm just adding a new rectangle and I'm placing it in the folder and call it backdrop light. And by selecting it, this time I'm not using an actor because it just has to face the wall, and I can arrange it like this, moving it up and seeing that I'm moving it like this. And you see actually it not having the right temperature. I keep my scene cool, so I'm like doing this temperature thing again. And for my backdrop light, I even want to create like a different mood, so I'm like changing the color. And now you see you get this like super nice like gradient on your scene and on the backdrop without like any textures, and you can play around with it, like how much you want to have it like on the scene or on the backdrop. For the setup, it could be even like moved more like this around, and I would just set it up once later when the camera is also in the scene to know perfectly what to do. Before we start with the light, I give you quickly an intro what I plan to do, which is similar to the setup I have seen for Jack Bridgeland, and I keep it very, very simple. So I saw several options. I will just create 3-point light, with a backdrop light additional, and the 3-point light mainly means that, wait a second, it mainly means that we have a fill light, which is like lighting the full scene. Then we have a key light, which is probably a bit heavier, but just setting up like a highlight to the drape of the garment, for example. And oh wait, do it like this. So we have the key light here, we have the fill light here, other way around, sorry. We have the fill light here, and then we have the key light here. And then I'm also adding with a spotlight a rim light. As said, it's kind of like lighting, setting highlights to the silhouette of the body. So for example, you see it here, while the key light is more like setting shadows to the drape and make it a bit more like dynamic. And then I'm adding a rectangle light, which is like facing to the backdrop, and change the color to create this gradient on the backdrop. Okay, before we setting up anything else, we're doing now the post-process volume, which applies real-time visual effects to your scene, and it's acting like a filter. Everything looks better and nicer with post-process volume. So how to add it? We have again our quick add button here, and I'm searching for post-process. It's automatically added to the outliner as well. I'm selecting this one, and there are some main settings, and then there are also some additional settings to tweak. So actually we see with the post-process volume, we added this cube to our scene, and to make it valid for the full scene, I'm typing in infinite extent unbound. So I'm typing in unbound and selecting this one. This ensures that this is like valid for the full scene. Then I'm typing in exposure, and because we kind of like in a gaming setup, Unreal Engine tries to compensate the light whenever it turns like into a different direction, and therefore we need to keep the exposure on one level and not like automatic. So you see the mattering mode is set to auto exposure, and we just keep it, but I'm going to the compensation, setting it to 0, and then also the min and max here I'm setting to 0. And this means our light setting is constant, and when we now change the intensity for the light, it will not be compensated by the game settings from Unreal. Then there's like lens flare, and this is set by default to 1. So I'm selecting this and set this to 0. And now setting some things for the quality, and for some I know why I'm doing it, for others probably not, and better to know for every setting you do why you're doing it, because then you can control it better. I followed some tutorials in the beginning when I learned Unreal, and for some stuff it's probably still not so clear for me, but I just said it. You can find out by yourself if you want. So I'm keeping the method in Lumen, so I would even not to check this one, because when it's unchecked and set to Lumen, then this is the default. But I go to Lumen Global Illumination, and I'm setting this one to hit lighting for reflections, and then I enlarge the quality here to 2, and this one to 4. Final gather quality I set also to 2, and then I scroll down to the reflections. I keep this one on Lumen, but also screen space can be something worth looking into. Mainly I'm rendering later everything in Lumen and not by path tracing, which is also a big difference. And yeah, it's just because I enlarged my render time by trying path tracing out. It can have like a higher quality. It's not longer real time, and therefore I don't see any advantage. I'm more up to tweaking my settings that everything with Lumen and real time looking really nice, instead of kind of like switching back to you render everything in a long way, not in real time. So I continue here. Lumen reflections quality I set to 4, and then I also select high quality translucency and select this one, and also the last 3 I'm hitting, and now it's my key width, which is kind of like disturbing a bit, but I set this one to 1, and the next one I set to 5, and then the last one to 10. And here you see the settings. And this is just enlarging the quality, and the outcome is really well, I would say. My renderings are all done with the settings from the beginning, and I just like them. Then coming more to the direction part, which is kind of like up to everyone by themselves if they want to do the art direction already partly in Unreal done or completely sourcing out. I normally do a post-production always for everything. Does not matter how much art direction I give to Unreal with a post-process volume, later on in Premiere Pro or in Photoshop. And still, I think to do some post-production already here in Unreal can worth it because the rendering quality is already higher. But I'm not a pro on color grading or anything. I'm not like getting this like blushy gray images and then like tweaking them until they look brilliant. I'm still a fashion designer, and for me it's kind of like I know that the rendering outcome is always a bit lower quality, and I can still tweak the curves to get like a more brilliant outcome. And by leaving this one to later also gives you more power on like what you want to do in post-production, while when you do it in Unreal means that you kind of have to stick to what you have done, even the result is probably not satisfying. Nevertheless, starting with bloom, and I think this is still something worth to do in Unreal Engine because it gives like this nice faded look. So if I'm like tweaking this up, you see I'm getting more this kind of like glowing effect, and therefore I can select the intensity, the Gaussian intensity and the threshold. And I think it's a bit new. This changed. Normally there was just like one for intensity. And by the way, clicking these little arrows always brings you back to the default settings. And normally you can kind of like tweak the threshold first and then like kind of reducing this. Yeah, I just do it by feeling, to be honest. I think a bit is good. 2, let's say 2 and 1.5 here, and then I keep the threshold on -1, and this looks okay-ish. Then I go to chromatic aberration, which kind of gives this nice effect on the edges, which you normally have like with light hitting and like creating this little spectrum of something. I mean, you can Google chromatic aberration and find out what it means. I just show, if I'm making it really extreme, you see like getting this effect here on the corners. And you can still do it in later post-production as said. Premiere Pro has also the settings. I do just a bit like of 0.2 because I think it's adding a nice value just to my character instead of like in Premiere Pro it's adding like this chromatic aberration to everything. Maybe here as well. Also for grain, I'm adding a bit in, doing 0.2, keep this one on 1, this one also on 2. And then I have a bit of grain in my scene. And then I also do a bit of color grading already here, just because I want to get this like Jack Bridgeland look and having a commitment that I will use it for every scene I'm using. So I type in color, and then going to saturation, I'm just typing in saturation, and I go for global, select this one and set this to 1.18, so it's giving a bit higher saturation. Then I select contrast, and also here below color grading I'm opening this one and set this one to 0.8, so a bit lower contrast. And again, saturation for the midtones, I higher this a bit up, and also selecting sharpness and adding 0.3. So it's just a bit of correction. You see it's looking a bit more faded, getting a bit more this like vintage retro vibe, but very subtle. So I could use it also for other projects without having like this super crazy art direction. Camera. Very important. Now we're coming to the camera, and with Unreal Engine we have the power to set a camera very similar, or exactly, I don't know because I'm not a photographer, to what would be in a photo shoot. And to add the camera I have this also here. I'm first creating again an actor because we do the same target setup. It makes it much easier, especially when you later want to render turntables. It's a very good setup. But it's also pointing always the camera then again to your subject, object, sorry. And I call this camera, and then I'm typing in Cine, and then we have Cine camera actor. This is the correct one. We're using this camera because this is a setup as like a photo studio camera. I have the camera now here selected, and I still have like this typed in to my search field, so I need to like delete this, and then I'm like doing the location of my camera to 0, and then I'm moving it out already and drag and drop it to parent it to my actor. So I just make here an underscore and write settings So I know I selected the correct camera, Cine Camera Actor, and I have here now this one I also put on 0. And then I select the camera and put this one on 0, like this. And now I'm moving up with my actor. And now you see the preview here already on the side. And I'm also rotating this already like to the front. So we have a good starting point. And to make it more precise, I type in here -90, then I'm really like center front. Now I think it's a good time to split my view, that I see like correctly what I'm focusing on and how my camera is set. So to split your viewports, you can do it here by hitting this button, and then you're automatically getting 4 viewports. I just need 2, so I'm like going to this little like dots, selecting 2, and then on the left side I'm normally using my viewport for the camera. So you see here the settings are now on like top and wireframe. I'm changing from top to first cinematic viewport and then to Cine Camera Actor, and then we have the same preview as here, and then I'm also having automatically lit set. Okay, before I start to move the camera around, here I can now also move the camera, and this is like how my camera would be also set. I don't want this because I want to have like the precise actor and not touching this any longer. So I'm like making this a bit smaller, and now I'm selecting my camera in my window where I've just like my full scene, because I can control it much better from here. And then I can like select my camera and make sure that I'm like setting this one to local space. And why is my camera not moving? Actually, no idea why this is not working, but I can still control it while like pressing this one and then like changing the location here. And I just changed the distance to my subject, to my object. And then from here on, I'm like moving this up and down. But I think there's like a kind of a setting which makes it impossible to move this. So I will try to fix this now in the settings of the camera. Because anyways, I want to change a lot of settings. So now we have our setup here. I'm selecting my camera and coming to the, I make this a bit smaller because I don't need the details here for the blueprint or what it is, for the other things. And look at tracking, none. Yeah, I don't know. Film back. This one I'm setting to 16:9 DSLR. Then I change from universal zoom to something like 30. Still not sure why this is not working in the panel, but now we can arrange it like a bit closer. And like for the lens settings, if you go like lower, like to a 12mm or 30mm lens, you get more like this kind of distortion as if you would have for a fisheye camera. While when I select something 85 or 100, I have to move my camera more far in the distance, but I would also have a nice depth of field in my background, which I probably like for this kind of like studio. Yeah, but this is kind of like part of that direction. Then we have the focus settings, and I go to tracking, open this one, and then selecting my Metahuman. So it's always like in focus. And to even check if it's like set correctly, I have this draw debug focus plane here and can now arrange it like with the coordinates to set a relative offset. So this can be sometimes helpful if you want to focus more on the face instead of like the center of the body, especially for close-ups, you have more precise control. And then I deselect it. Just keep in mind in the end to kind of like check it before rendering. Then also for crop, I want actually to crop my image to a portrait because I prefer to render it out like already in a social media format, then I can post it for reels or shorts. And therefore I set the crop aspect ratio to 0.56 to 5. And here you see that I'm now really having this set to the render size I want later on. And I can check then in my scene if everything is kind of like inside my image. I also go to white balance, selecting it, and then change the temperature to a bit lower. Again, this is kind of like a preference you can do, how much white balance you want. And it's actually showing me not in my current window here. I need to probably, so I set it to 5500. Also, I don't want to have my icons here in this viewport So just a reminder, with pressing G, the viewport is changing to hide the icons. Okay, it's day 2. As said before, yesterday my full scene crashed and I decided to switch some parts of the tutorial. So to finalize our template and save it, I would also go over the sequencer very quick, because we also need it for later to adding our animation and for rendering. And it's good to have the sequence already in our scene and it is explained, and then I'm like continue with the Metahuman and so on. As said, we need the sequence to render our scene. It's mainly to create cinematic content, and to add the sequence we go to this little icon here, open, add level sequence, and then I just save it in my content folder and I call it SQ base. And then this additional tab is opening in the content browser, and I quickly want to jump over what everything means, and I just opened therefore the documentation of Unreal because it's so much easier. So if you see the sequence, we have like on the top line the toolbar. So I close this one. So here we have the toolbar where we find like very important settings we can do, especially for animation, but I will not cover this in this tutorial. Mainly what we need later is this little icon to open the movie render queue. Then we have next to it here our outliner, and this one we need to drop all assets into which are relevant for our scene. So for example, I just have it now this cone as an example, but if I'm adding it to my scene and start to keyframe and animate it, it would happen here. So you see if I press the play button, I made a very quick animation, which links to the right side where we have our timeline. So this is in unit of frames, and green means the beginning, red the ending, and it's possible to shift like the start and ending point just with the mouse. But we also have the option here. These are the playback buttons, so I can press play to start my animation. I can also go here to a frame, for example 30, and say this is my end frame, and clicking on this like set end button to end my animation there. And that's mainly it. I just leave it as it is for now. One important thing what we need to add to our scene from the beginning is a camera, otherwise we cannot render, and there are different ways to add the camera. Either I just select it here in my outliner and then I'm drag and dropping it, or I can also use the add button and then add actor track, and I can select all the items which are in my outliner also from here. What's very important is like that additionally this camera cuts is opening, and whatever you do, it sometimes can happen that this one is like moved, and if this thing here is not like going to the end of your scene, it means it also not rendering the rest. So you need to kind of like have to extend it by yourself. And sometimes also if you, for example, delete the camera, I also delete the cone. Now there's no binding to our camera cuts. Even if I'm like drag and drop my camera back in, you see this little like red frame around here. Therefore I need to make a right mouse click and change camera, and then I have the binding back. You could also change to a different camera, but it's important that the camera is here in the outliner of the sequencer. So it makes sense to have the camera already set to our sequence, especially for a template. And it also makes sense to, no, it makes not the sense. But you could also, for example, add your light here if you want to change like during the rendering the intensity or the angle of the light. You could create turntables here, and yeah, this is like your tool for animation, and it's quite easy. And then I think I'm adding already the movie render queue here, because this would be also then final set to our base template. And for the movie render queue, I go here to this button, and then the movie render queue window is opening. We see here's our sequence base, If you have several sequences later, you can also select or deselect them. And then what's also important, we have actually no settings for this one. We also don't have any like presets, and this one we're creating now. So whenever you add a new scene, you can add the presets we're creating. And therefore I'm going to the unsaved configurations. It's opening like the default settings for the movie render queue. And in this window, we have on the left side all the settings we can add. And when we select one of the settings, on the right window, there's like the properties opening. Okay, I don't want to render anything in like JPEG, so I can select it and just hit the delete button. I need to open my key. So I delete this one, and then I'm adding EXR to my scene, and I change this one to DWAA. I saw this in another tutorial, and actually with EXR, my render's looking so much better and more advanced. So this is really one setting I would recommend. Even it's taking more space, and it's also, yeah, you need to open it in another app to preview it. I would still say it's worth it because the difference is so big between this and PNG. So this is like really unnegotiable. Then I also add anti-alias, and therefore I change the settings to 46 and override anti-alias, and I'm keeping this on default. I render warm-up frames, and then I make this one to yes. You can change settings here in between if you have motion blur or if you don't have motion blur, but I don't go in any detail for this because it's just settings I figured out which working best for me. And I swapped here the numbers and like were setting more around, and then my render time increased while not having better quality. Then I'm adding the camera, I'm adding console variables, but I'm not using them. And what's very important is the game overrides. So as said, we don't need to change anything at this stage for here. This one I used in past, like you can add some extra variables to enhance the quality of your scene, but it was not working for me properly. If you use command consoles here, it's necessary that you also add them here depending on the commands. But yeah, also this one I will not discuss. It's more like setting up a base and then we are fine, not being overwhelmed with like all settings and all stuff. And then for game overrides, we also don't need to change anything. The only thing is like for the output is very important. First of all, the output resolution, since we render in portrait, we also need to change it here. I also have a custom frame rate, and I'm actually set everything to 30. Normally I'm rendering in like 60 frames, but for the purpose of the tutorial, again, I don't want to like being overwhelming with things. And yeah, just that you know that this one is a setting you should change or you are able to change. And then we have output directory, which is very important, and this you need to set up for every rendering. I deselect override existing output in case that I'm missing sometimes to set this one, but mainly this is like where you save your renderings. So if I have my own folder for this, like I have fashion editorial, and then I have a render folder, and then I just select this like one, and I know where all my images are saved after rendering. And then to save this configurations, I open here this menu and then save as preset, and I can name it now, and I name it render settings portrait, and I accept. And now whenever I'm opening the movie render queue, I can open here my render settings. I can also make slight changes and then going here and then decide if I just override my presets or saving them as new presets. Since we are not rendering, but if you render, you hit here the render local button. You get here a preview and you can check then the result in the folder. But if the preview is not looking like you're rendering, means like your camera is completely off, then probably your binding is not correct. So So as said before, I'm adding anything else, I want to create like a template now out of this project that I can reuse it, and I show you how I would do this. So first of all, and this is something we should always do in between, it's kind of like saving, or here's also save all. And now I'm just closing my project and going to my launcher, and I could now, so here's my studio base, and with a right mouse click I can select show in folder, and then it shows here in my folders on my PC where I've saved this project. And you see this one is always like the Unreal file by itself. When I make a double click on it, it's opening even if I didn't open the launcher. So if for some reasons your launcher is not opening because there's no internet connection, then you could also open it here. I had this case already several times. Or if you're not able to log in for reasons because Unreal crashed. But we cannot like just copy this one here, because in our scene also these folders which kind of like having the content for our scene or for our project. And therefore I go a step back. I have here my studio base. By the way, I called it studio base. It makes more sense for me. It's even shorter. I make a right mouse click on it and copy and paste. Now I have the copy here. I'm opening it and I rename my studio base 01, and also this one I call with the ending of 01. If I update now here my projects, if I hit now the launch button and go to my projects, then I already see that it's updated and even visible in my project folder. So I can open now this copy. And this also means I'm not touching my base. I'm just copying it every time when I need to create a new project not from scratch, but if I need to kind of like start a new project because probably my other scene is messed up and I have too many assets inside of it, or whatever else reasons are coming up. And also, yeah, as said, I crashed yesterday this full level project with Metahuman and CLO, so I'm also having a backup now. Because what I would do next is now adding a Metahuman for real, and therefore I'm going to Quixel bridge, which I find here on the top bar. I'm signing in. I'm already signed in, which is good. And then on the left side, I find here my Metahumans. If you don't have your own creation, you can select one of these. I have my own one. I'm selecting one with like a green arrow here because this one I already downloaded, and this is kind of like fastening the process for me now. I select this one on the right side. It's opening up. It's important to have it set to cinematic complete, and then normally first need to download the Metahuman, which can take up to ½ hour. And once it's downloaded, I can add it to my project. Actually, I'm migrating it. Import would mean that I'm just having this Metahuman imported as it is. With Migrate, I come to the Metahuman creator. So therefore, it's also important that the Metahuman creator plugin is enabled. And we could also click import and migrate. Then we have like the original one and the one for the creator. I go for migrate now. It should normally not matter which one you select. But I also heard that there's issues coming up with like importing the Metahuman. I would say whenever you have issues in general with your project, it can sometimes be that you just need to like start from the beginning with an empty project where you don't have any Metahuman inside. There are many bugs, and I have the feeling if a kind of like doing a wrong setting in the wrong time is giving hiccups to the project and kind of like, yeah, making errors to your scene. So I hit restart now and save selected. I can close this window for now. And now I have a new folder here in my content browser, which is Metahumans. I can open it, and I don't have a Metahuman so far ready. So first I need to double click here to open the Metahuman character creator, and then this window should open. I'm not going too much in detail with Metahumans, just that you not have to jump in between tutorials. I also made tutorial Metahumans, which you find in my channel. But I think it's also very simple and easy, and even not necessary to have like a big tutorial about these settings here. First of all, I want to change here the viewport from topology to skin, and then I go to materials. One important thing is you can select or deselect to show the top underwear. Unfortunately, we cannot remove this massive pants, which is annoying because for some looks and styles you definitely have like a bit more of the skin visible. I don't know why they are so crude, but well, it is what it is. Now the makeup looks fine. I also had issues yesterday with the hair, so I'm selecting the hair actually, and I make a double click on my hairstyle to remove the hair. Actually, there seems to be a bug for now for Unreal Engine 5.7.1, so therefore I avoid using hair. Yesterday I also had issues with the makeup, so I'm just reducing it to a value of 0.1 and also the concealer 0.1. And then also in the materials, if we go to the skin back, we can select here now the texture size, and I'm going for 4K. This is enough for me. So here are options, and could even like change the texture resolution between the body and the face, which is kind of nice. And then I have the assembly button here. I first need to create a full rig, so I press this button, and this can take some seconds or minutes. At the same time, I can also download the texture source. So normally this should show up once it's rigged and the textures are downloaded. If not, maybe you need to switch once between like materials and then assembly back. This was my case for now. And then I'm like, just hit the assemble, and this also takes a few minutes. So once it's done, I just close the window, and I have now here my additional folders. I go on, call her Daria, and I can add her now to my scene. And on the right side with the arrow, I'm just like putting her to center. And now I can also delete this cone here and changing here the perspective to cinematic settings. And this looks quite good already. One thing in the Metahuman blueprint, which you see here, I make a double click to open it. I can change here from components to viewport to see the preview of my Metahuman. And then I normally go to LiveSync and set this one to 0, because the Metahuman is set in a LOD system, which means like as far your camera is away from the Metahuman, the lower the quality is. But in our case, we don't need it because we don't play a game. We just want like cinematic production. So I hit the compile button and then I save it, and I can close now my Metahuman. And now I have the Metahuman always in highest quality, does not matter how far I'm away. I also want to show in this tutorial how you can use animations. So I decided the best way to showcase is to quickly show how to use Mixamo for animations, because this is a free platform. You just have to log in, but that's it. And I opened it already. I have this as my standard character. If you don't have this one visible, maybe there's one of the other ones, you can simply change it with a double click. And I think the one I'm using is Xbot. So I'm just typing in X, and then I have her as my base. Now I can switch back to animations and have access to like all this free stuff here. And what I want to use is a catwalk. But before I'm adding the catwalk animation to my avatar, I'm downloading this one first. So I press download and can just keep here this default settings. I did this already yesterday, so I don't need to do it now. And then with a double click, I can select here this catwalk forward. And the first thing I'm doing is like, I want to keep it in place. I'm overriding it, that means it's in slow-mo. I add a bit more character arm space because I don't want to have any intersections, and I could adjust this also in Unreal, but I'm not showing this in this tutorial and it makes it way easier. So here are my final settings. I also extend this to the maximum, so I have 142 frames. And then I'm downloading this as well. And this time I use without skin and like this. And I made it yesterday, so I'm like, cancel it for now. Now I have these ones in my downloads. So I'm going back to Unreal Engine. I create a new folder with right mouse click, new folder, and I call it Animation. Animation, yeah, that's correct. Double click on it, and also here I'm creating a new folder, which I call Mixamo, because we need to retarget the Mixamo animations now to the Metahuman. I first drag, so I'm showing it. I first drag here my export download and I use pipeline defaults. The only thing I'm checking is like for the skeleton, I select nothing. So I press this reset button and then I'm import. So it's importing my avatar with additional materials, which I'm not using, but anyways. And then whatever animations I have downloaded, I also import them. And this time we need the Xbox skeleton. So I'm importing this as well. And I see here my animation. Maybe I quickly rename it because it's already the second one. Now I can make a right mouse click on it. That's important. Make a right mouse click and getting the option of retarget animations. It's opening here this window with my export. And on the right side, I need to fill in the target, which is like my SKM Metahuman body mesh. And then down here in the window, I select this catwalk and it's not working. It worked yesterday. I'm going crazy. Why is it not working now? Okay, I found out why the retarget was not working. So actually, for the plugins, I enabled all Metahuman plugins for now. I hope it's not crashing later. Even they're experimental. But now when I go here on right mouse click, retarget animation, select my Metahuman, and then select here my catwalk, I have this catwalk animation running. And then I can export animation. I select my animation folder and export, and keep this settings here, export. Now I can close this one, go back to content, and in my animation folder I have this one here. The thing is, if I'm like sending this one over now to CLO, I would not have the transition from the base pose to the starting point of the animation. So, and this was a point yesterday where my Unreal kind of like crashed. It was really terrible. Nothing worked any longer. Even when I reopened the scene, it was kind of like frozen. I never had this before. Very dramatic. So I'm saving this one here now. And I even think I'm saving actually this template to keep it running like this. Make a copy. So if I go back to my, so this is my studio base. And I made already a second one because I thought I need to redo some steps. I call this now Metahuman, Studio Metahuman, and this one as well. Oh, this is not working. Maybe because I have it open here. I'm also deleting this one now. Let me check if I close this one, because it's running. Ooh. Oh God, I hope I'm not crashing this one now. I better call it back. And I'm first clothing. I'm saving this one and then copy and paste. And now I can rename this one too. Also, don't make it too long. I'm terrible, I know. And I call it like this. And now we have this copy. I call it and this one as well. And I'm opening this one. So we have now a copy and we should be safe. Let's see. Okay, let's start a transition pose, and therefore I'm opening my sequence. I have the timeline now here below, and I'm selecting my Metahuman and drag and drop her over to the scene. Now I want to just have a base pose, and therefore I'm clicking on the body, right mouse click, bake pose asset. And this one I also save in my animation folder. I call it base pose, and okay. Going back to my content browser, And when I go now to here on top, to the modi and change to CLO Marvelous Designer LiveSync, it's hitting this message, which we can ignore for now. Once Substance is available, it will not pop up any longer. It's actually set to red, but we anyways go first to the extension and then to pose. My start pose is base pose, and my target is this one here, catwalk forward, the one with the Metahuman, not the bot one. And now I hit combine. It says it's combined, and then it's also showing up in my content drawer, like in the main one. And with a double click I can open it now, and I see that there is a transition happening. That's really good because we want to add now this walk cycle to our CLO file. So finally we open CLO. This full tutorial is about CLO and it takes like hours and days to open it. I created a project I want to use. Taking this one here. It's always asking me if I want to open my USD layer thing, but I don't have it, and I just click it and I also close this window here on the side. I don't need this avatar, so I'm deleting it. And it's important that CLO is open because otherwise the LiveSync is not running. It's also important that we are in the LiveSync mode. And I opened my animation, I just stopped it. And now I need to go on the right side to here skeletal mesh and adding also the head. Otherwise it would be bad because there would be just nothing. Also for animation simulation it's important. And now I'm going here on the left side to LiveSync as LiveSync and geometry cache. I just hit export and now I can go back to CLO and wait. She's a bit in front, but I'm like just moving it like this. That should work. I even change the skin offset of my avatar to 1. And then I'm extending here the animation to the end. And one thing which is important, now I need to wait, is that the frames per second are set on 30, and this should be the same on Unreal Engine. Make sure this is matching, even like with the preserve frames and like frame thing you have now with the LiveSync tool. For my experience, there's a lot of clipping ongoing, so to avoid this, keep everything on frame 30 for now. I hit the record button, and because I have done this not in the simulation quality, it jumped pretty much around. It's also a bit concerning that we see the avatar through, but I just want to test it now like it is and show you the options. I yesterday found a solution for the clipping thing. Let's just do a first test run in this like easy way. So now I can just like close and shifting back to the LiveSync, and I drop this a bit down that everything is like more visible. I have following settings and they need to be set before updating, which is like garment, single object, thick, unified UV coordinates, and then include cache animation. This is because we have an animation which we want to import. I make actually entire region, and yeah, I leave this on opacity mask. And I often hit reset to default because I'm thinking like, oh, here's like the import now. Why is it on top? This is like, okay, everything is done. I hit the update button. Don't ask me again. There are some pop-up windows I don't need to know. And then once it's imported, I'm hitting the save button and I select the content browser and make a right mouse click, new folder, and I call it CLO. And I make a subfolder for the dress because from my experience, I will import it like several times. Dress 1, and then hit OK. Now the dress is disappearing, but I bring this back up. Go now to my CLO folder, to dress, dress space, and then geometry cache. And I'm just adding it to my 3D space. Maybe I'm also going already. Why this is not saved. Now I see it here, and going back to the content browser, opening now our sequence base. I have already my Metahuman inside of the scene. One important thing, I want to add now my animation. I'm selecting the Metahuman control rig and hit the delete button because we don't need it if we adding an animation. I also make sure that I'm actually on frame 0, and then I click on this plus sign on the body and adding the animation, which is like the combined one. And now I'm selecting the dress, and I can switch from animation mode to selection mode because we're not animating something manual. I'm taking the dress here from the outliner and adding it also to my time sequence, and then hitting this little plus button, and it's important to go to geometry cache. It's this one, not this one. And let's see, it's clipping like hell, but what could help is if I'm selecting now the blueprint of my Metahuman, which I find in this folder, or I can edit blueprint, I can also select it here. I go to body here on the left for the components, and then I search for post, and this is disable post-process blueprint. I select this one, hit compile and pray. Yeah, it's working. It's still a bit clipping. I can test also going back to my animation. By the way, I'm moving this one now to my animation folder and move here. And then I select the combined one. And there's also like this post-process animation blueprint here, which I can select, and then it's set on enable. And I'm sending this over again. I delete this one out. I'm adding a head and then geometry cache. And for sure, we need to switch here to LiveSync mode. Okie dokie. I don't know why she's so tall now. I can imagine why. No, it's working better. I mean, I also didn't set her now on 1. Maybe I'm also changing this just because for fairness. Probably 1 is not a good idea. I would keep it on 3 anyways, but let's just check quickly if this made a difference. I think the other one would also work if we would have kept it on 3, but I'm selecting now this dress and I'm clicking on this eyeball, and this does not mean for rendering that it's disappearing. Just a quick side note, if you want to include something to your scene but not include it in your rendering, you need to select this item and then hidden. I search for hidden, and then you have actor hidden in game, and like selecting this, and this means that it's also not visible in your scene. If you don't want to like arrange your outliner new and keep it in and probably save it for later, this would be the chance. Actually, we're not rendering, so I just wanted to mention this. I'm updating now. Now we have the dress here in, and I'm saving it. Again, CLO, I create a new folder and call it dress 2, and then hit OK. It's always closing the sequence currently, which is a bit annoying, just to say. Dress 2, dress space, geometry cache, and adding it here. I remove this search field and put it on 0, and then taking my dress and adding it to the scene. And by the way, you can just like drag and drop it into this field, and it's automatically adding it below or in direction of the alphabet, I think. So hitting this one now. Yeah, it's a bit better. If I'm now selecting the blueprint and go to body, then it's really heavy. I would say the right setting is in the blueprint, disable the post process. So check this one here. And then for the animation, also keep this on disabled. You see a slight change. One is a bit smaller. Sometimes it's visible. It's kind of like morphing the transitions together from the avatar. I would probably take like the smaller one, so keep it on enable, but then keeping the distance from the body on like a level of 3 and using the settings now. Like in past, it was even the other way around that it was working. And yeah, it's really annoying, to be honest. Like, why? Why is it not like by default set to something which is workable? Because this tool here actually with the LiveSync, this little button, should enable that this is working in CLO and then bringing it back by default and not like setting around, I don't know. This is like really annoying because this topic is coming up so often, and I think this is also a frustration a lot of people have to work with the LiveSync for Marvelous Designer and for CLO, but I still want to work with it, and it was already fixed in the last version. Now it's kind of back with this topic. Yeah, but it's kind of better. Should we do a last test? I had it here on 3. I'm just like deleting this one, and then was it on 3 here? It's taking 1 second. Maybe I'm just like, I do it again. It's also the simulation quality. I'm not testing it now, but I will check it later. What's left? We have now the assets in our window, and we can now adjust the light, because actually it's like a very flat light, I would say. I would probably go more for something with... So if I would arrange the light now new, I would probably like deselect all the lights, put them off, and then starting with the fill light to have it like... Sorry. Starting with the fill light and yeah, not moving it like this, but probably making it like to a low value, and then selecting the fill light here to arrange it a bit higher, and then moving it around to see where I want to have it facing from. So this light should more fill our scene, so I think I bring it to the side here, and then going to the key light and seeing now that the key light should be like on a really low value. Maybe we even don't need it. And just to showcase the rim light, because I think this is most interesting, as said, kind of like moving it a bit like more to the back and then to the side. I want to have it like on the shoulder or something. And here I need to deselect this one, like something on the shoulder, like this. And now I can move it a bit like, and I make it very strong that I can see what's happening from this side and this. I still think that this actor needs to be more to the back. Yeah, it really takes, but you see actually, so I'm pressing G to remove the icons, but you see actually that it starts to get really like the silhouette, and I would also add it like more here. And then for the backdrop, I can also decide how much color I want to give and how much strength. And I think this is a fine-tuning which can take like quite a while. Maybe I arrange it and then I'm like recording this and make time lapse. But I want to wrap this tutorial up, and as said, now I'm like setting my camera finally to where I want it to render. So I see actually I need to change it to cinematic viewport and then to cine camera actor to get like this frames here back. And this looks quite good. I can move it a bit around. If you keyframed your camera, this is not working without the sequencer. Just to know that you then need to arrange everything here in keyframe new. I did it in past wrong and it was like annoying here, like this. As said, just to show like how it's working, also deleting the other dress, delete. And then I'm going to the sequencer. I can delete now this other dress, which I'm not using. And then I'm going to the movie render queue here. It switched back to having no settings. So I'm like opening this up and selecting my render settings portrait. I also open this quickly to check where it will save, because by default it's saving your renderings in the Unreal project. I have a different path for it. Select folder, and then yeah, just make sure that your output frame rate is matching with your frames here. And then I accept, and then render local. Yeah, we just do it because yeah, as said, I think pretty soon Substance will be available. So now we see the render time and it's shrinking more and more. I think actually we render every frame in a few seconds. So it will probably approximately taking, I would say 15 minutes, maybe 20 to render out this 150 frames. And this is because we're not using any like fog materials. When there is like a lot of materials with translucency, this will like elongate your render time, but this one should be quite fast. And also a little trick I want to show, because I said like EXR files, I cannot preview, wait, what is this? I cannot preview that easy. So if I have now my files and I want to like preview them, and I stop the rendering now by just like pressing escape, and then there's sometimes error messages. Oopsie. So to preview this, I'm using an app which is called DJV, and it was for free, and I can just like drag and drop my images inside and then pressing play. And because we have not so many frames, it's not showing that long, but you can preview like your renderings in a second without opening Photoshop or Premiere Pro, importing and so on. It's so simple that I really use it actually to preview my stuff. And also what I need to mention, besides like doing the light in a better way, I would also add probably more textures to it. I think the garment is textured, but it has not color assigned, just for the purpose of the showcase. I would also edit my video and retouching it in Premiere Pro actually. And if it's just a frame, I use Photoshop. But just to mention that this is never the final output I'm using. I think that's it. So I'm heading over. So really quick, here's the result. And for sure, I didn't record the tweaking of the light because I work on this really a long time, but I will share with you my final rendering here. So as you see, by the way, I also used another look. Sometimes it's blurry and then you just need to navigate to the material, open it once and save, and then it should be like in full quality again. So also the textures I made a while ago in Substance, but they are quite brilliant, really good outcome. I invested much more time in this look. So just quickly for the light, I will go over each light section and you can have a look on it. So for the light, the background light, I open this a bit more up, which is the one in the back. Here are my values, here are the position, location, rotation. And below that, I think I didn't tweak anything, as we said. So the rest is fine. Oh, I made the temperature on a very high value. Wow, can't remember that I did this. It's a mistake, but a good one. Then the fill light. Here are the settings. Then the rectangle light. And the spotlight, which is coming, as you see here, really from a back to the front to get like this nice rim light quite everywhere, like even on this side. And then I also have a spotlight for the front, which you can see setting another highlight. This one is the spotlight front, this one. So also this is creating a really good light, and I just copy pasted the other one. And you see I even didn't use the temperature here. Oh God, I will never get back to this setting if I'm not copying this project. And I messed this project already up. I didn't make a proper copy because this is already a template I used before. And yeah. Then for the camera, I actually used an 85 lens. As said, I like that it's having a bit more like depth of field, but I didn't do anything else. And for post-process volume, I think I didn't do any of the settings. So here's my bloom. And if I go to color, I did nothing. I did a bit. I did the same. Sorry. I did the same as that. Here as well. Yeah. It's a good color grading, I would say. It's the same as that. And anything else which is relevant for the scene? We had sharp. Yeah, this I made all for the scene. So you see, with these settings and arrangements, you can create a scene like this, and I have to say this is so far the best I have made with a simple setup. I would say. It's looking quite advanced, and I imported just the project from CLO, placed the textures already in CLO, and then it was just with the LiveSync imported. Yeah, I also have a tutorial on garment simulation and wind simulation, because both I use actually for this one. And also please have a look in the description, because I will link probably the template so that you don't need to set it up by yourself. And actually thinking also to make a handout, which you probably can get. I need to see what I will do at the end. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions or want me to cover other topics, feel free to leave a comment. I'm normally responding quite quick. And if you like to support my work, consider subscribing to the channel, as well as I have a link below in the description where you can find additional learning material, merch, and I actually don't know what I will set up because I'm quite new to this. It really means a lot to me and help me to create content like this in future. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!